It's glorious. Beautiful. Wow. Hello, this is a short excerpt of the Push 3 Bible. Ableton Live 12 has added this new possibility of essentially setting up global tunings for the track you're working on. And by that I mean is that you can now shift essentially everything away from a specific frequency, so center C major around some other pitch of C, or change the temperament or the distance between the notes. You can move from the even temperament of even spaces between semitones to one where they're not even, and basically open up a whole wide world, universe perhaps, of tunings and scales. It has to be said that on Push itself, our access to these things is limited. In fact, really we have to do everything from Ableton Live for the moment, and I'm not sure if a lot of that will change. I've been told by Ableton that they hope to bring some control from Push related to this tuning system, but that it's not exactly clear what that's going to look like right now. And the version of Ableton Live 12 I have access to is exactly reflecting that. There's not a lot we can do, but it does relate to scales and Push. And so I want to just show some of the examples of what it opens up. So here we are in Ableton Live 12. This is a beta. And the first thing you'll notice here is we can choose our scale, which is a global scale if we want, if it's set to on, which means that all of the clips that we're creating or working on and the tracks that we're playing with are going to follow that particular scale. And we have a whole list here, very similar, if not exactly the same as the list on Push. What we can then do is go and look for the tuning menu. Tuning is now under View. So View, Tuning, that will let us see it here. You can also get rid of it by just closing it there. Now it says Drop Tuning System here. Where we can find tunings is here, and we have this vast list of possible tunings we can load in. So if I just make sure I'm on an instrument like grand piano, C major, and let's just pull one of these in. I'm going to choose one at random, pull this in. This is now going to be a global tuning system, and totally different result. What is cool, what is happening with Push is that it does update the layouts when we're playing to fit with what's going. And the way that's laid out will, of course, as always, be affected by the scale menu, which itself changes depending on the tuning that you load. So if I load, let's try a different one and load this in here, you can see that it's showing fourths and thirds sequential as we would expect, and actually is showing us the current normal scale menu. So you'll get different results as you work with them. The difference here is if we use this specific tuning I've loaded, this 1630 Johnson, and we play C major, you can hear there's something funky going on. Whereas if we would turn that off just by deleting it, the tuning is back to normal again. I'll just press undo to bring that back. So here already you have a very interesting possible world of things to be exploring. And if I move to, let's say, minor, you can hear that the tuning stays intact. It's still adjusting the temperaments, the essential pitch intervals between the tones in accordance with this tuning system. So we can still see different scales, but every space between a note or a semitone has now shifted. What we can also do, if we like, is just zoom in here and start changing settings here, meaning that we can now, for example, move things over to 432, or any other pitch that maybe makes sense to your beliefs around frequencies. I won't go into that, but what happens then is the question. We've essentially shifted everything around. It's far too low. Something already quite beautiful just about that example. So as you can see, this is a big change. As I've pointed out, you can achieve some similar things with the MicroTuner, but this is a neater way of working. It's just not something which is available from Push. You won't find it in Push's settings. Currently, if that changes, I will of course update the video text of this video or put a text chapter or lesson somewhere. And also in Scale, nothing particularly is changing here. What is interesting, however, is that we've lost the possibility of moving to different root notes, because they arguably don't really exist anymore in the traditional sense with this tuning, because C might be C, but and I'll take a random one, G might just be a little bit above G or a little bit below where G was before. So I'm sure this hurts somebody's brain an awful lot to work this out. So yeah, experiment and see what comes up, because this is going to be another new playground that we have to explore, and another series of gateways and limitations into making music. Now, what also happens at this moment, once we've loaded in a tuning, is that we may well lose the ability to control the scale on a global level. And I guess that's just part and parcel of how this is set up in Ableton Live. And again, is something to keep in mind if you're working with it. At this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this tuning so that we get this control back again, and look at a new update, well, an update to an existing device in Ableton Live, which is the Chord device. Now, this is really fun because with the Chord device, we can drag it in here. And what you'll notice is that it has some extra buttons from before. So you can ask the Chord device to follow the current scale, the current global scale. So let's just do that for now. We're in C major, but we can then shift these different extra note generators to different values. And then let's play something, let's say in chromatic, and see what we get. And what's interesting is if I move to a semitone above C, it still keeps it within that scale. So already a lot of fun with that. It's really, really fun. I've made in the past similar devices which worked with a combination of a scale with a chord in front of it, with also some random pitch generators, and that was super fun. But this is much, much smoother, arguably. If we look at the device itself and step inside, we do have a few more possibilities than before. So we can have scale, the global scale, on or off. So let's just turn it off. And what we can also do is use learn, but I'll come to that in a moment. Velocity we can also adjust, and then chance we can say how much of a possibility we would like for these extra notes to be generated or not. So again, a nice, interesting randomization essentially of the thing, giving it a little bit more of an organic result, arguably. The one, however, that I really, really love is the fact that we can strum through them. So right now, they all play together. If we put strum on, and now I hope maybe for more options in terms of the speed here or other possibilities, you can strum in a reverse order. Or perhaps not have it according to milliseconds, but perhaps note divisions. That could maybe also be interesting. Beautiful. Let's do something with chance a little bit lower. Now, just a side note is if I change scale here, for example, to minor, because we have the chord device, it's still going to keep on generating major notes even if I go to the minor. So that's because that device is there. But what is interesting to know and what is useful and is updated for push is that if we just come out of the chord and mute that or turn it off for now, is that changing scale here does actually change it globally, globally there. So if I change scale to, for example, Mixolydian, you can see that it's updated there. And that's going to, of course, work on the basis of, is this turned on or off? I would now change scale to be on something else. It is changing it visually here as a setting, but it's not going to apply it to every single track that we're working on. That is also a reminder that when we generate a clip in a specific scale, Ableton Live remembers or attaches a scale to that clip. And that means that we can also essentially have one clip recorded in here with, in this case, C Phrygian. So I'll just record something. And let's just move down to the next clip slot. I'll just do it with the cursor key here. I'm in the wrong mode to do that, so I'll just do session mode instead. And what I mean by that, I'm in the wrong workflow mode. I should have been in clip in order to do that, but it doesn't matter. Scale, and let's move this to anything else. A whole half diminished and record something there. And just let that loop. If I now come back and launch this one here, you will see that scale is loaded as C is Phrygian for this one, whereas if we play that one, it's going to essentially load or select the scale of C whole half diminished. So there is this link, there's this possibility of having the clips remember which scale they were recorded, which could also be, for some of you, a way of selecting scales you want to play with. You could rename this to Phrygian, and then this one to whole half, and then use them to essentially launch a scale on a particular track. And again, that will have then, of course, a relationship to whether you have global scale setting on or off. So a lot more options have now turned up in terms of mixing and matching scales, mixing and matching different track settings, and also device settings such as the Chord device. While I'm here, I just want to explore a few more tunings because these are really so much fun. I'm going to move push into, I suppose, in key and just keep it on major for now, and just pull in a few more of these tunings to see what we get. So let's pull this one in here. Nothing too strange. There we go. That sounds like an old piano. Essentially what we're getting is the ability to have an automatic honky-tonk piano. Perhaps, depending on how you think about things. Now that's totally different. This is completely... Now I have much more the feeling as if I'm playing a string-like instrument in terms of the interval between the pads is much smaller in terms of pitch. So I'm able to play in this much finer division of pitches and make kind of music I would never usually make. It's glorious. Sounds like a kind of string instrument right now, this grand piano. Just going to take a brief time out here to suggest you look at your MPE settings, in particular the pad setting and also the in tune width setting now and then, because they're quite relevant here. But also, very importantly, I would suggest using sometimes synthesized instruments such as Drift, which is available in every version of Live 11 and up, because that will allow a greater range of pitches for you to work with, as well as allowing for pitch bends that tend to be a little bit more reliable than some sampled instruments such as the grand piano that I'm using here. Wait, gone too low. Did you see how it showed the range? That's super interesting. Wow, using octave up and down is... It's loaded a different view using octave up and down. That is very interesting. I think that might happen once you change that and then realize that it's not able to show you things that it should. So what I'm wondering, I'm learning this as we speak, is that an octave? It is. Very interesting. Super duper interesting. Let's find another one. This is just glorious. Let's pull this one in. I'll use octave again. Doesn't change the layout much. You might, wow. Absolutely fascinating. This is opening up a whole new series of dimensions of exploring pitch. Okay, I could do this all day. I'll do one last one just for fun. All the modulations. I'll leave this here for now. At this stage, I'm going to talk about tuning and a device which exists in Max for Live. So if you have Live Suite, you will be able to access this, or if you've bought Max for Live separately. And it allows people using Live 11 to get access to some of the tuning adjustments that are coming in Live 12, which I'll cover in a different video. The MicroTuner device is one that we can find in the packs area of Ableton Live Suite. And if you don't see it here, you might find it under available packs, or potentially go to Ableton's website should you not see it in the packs. I notice sometimes it doesn't show everything that's available here for some reason in my account. Anyway, here is MicroTuner, and we can, well, first off, let's just tidy this up here, remove these devices we don't need, and we can drag an instance of MicroTuner here. Now, the first thing to mention, especially when using Push 3, is that this aspect of MPE on or off can be very important, whether it's either on or push in the settings here, or in the device itself. So I'll just give you an example of that. I'll make sure it's off first, and I'm going to take a brief look at this device. I'm not going to go into the depth of what it can do because there's like quite a lot of things here. Is that essentially what we can do is if I play C here, C major, if I move to the next tone, it's essentially diverting it, repitching it to a different one. To something completely different, and that's based on what we see here. So we have these different possibilities of moving to different distributions of, or redistributions of the notes. So we can move to 9, for example, or move along to just 12, which should be the same. But what we can do with 12, which is sounding just like normal C major, is we can take one of these, for example, the root note, and move it to a new position. And we've made our own scale, which is really, really cool. And you can then go and highlight which one you might want to work on and move, excuse me, you need to do that actually with the position here. I'd forgotten that. So you need to move to the position here in order to then move to the one you want to edit. It would be really cool if we could just do it based by playing notes on push. Oh wait, I correct myself. It is possible. I'd forgotten about the follow function. So if I now play on push C and then move to the next one, it will automatically highlight it, sorry, and allow me to move it. So I can then play another note and move that one as well. The thing is, the options that we have on Push's screen are relatively limited. We can choose scale A and B here, but it's not as if we can access what I was just showing you on the screen as easily as before. Now, there's this one other aspect of the MicroTuner, which I think is really crazy and very, very cool, is that we can blend and morph between two scales that we might choose here and here. So in order to do that, you turn blend on, and we can now move this slider to move between these different pitches. So here on A, I'll just play a triad. and it blends over like that. And that is something that we can actually get on push, so we can move the blend amount here. So I'm not even going to begin to scratch the surface of what's possible there, but it allows you on a per track basis to, and also globally, I'll show that actually in a moment, to shift tunings to a huge degree using this device if you're using Live 11. If you're using Live 12, you might consider some of the built-in, baked-in microtuning aspects there, or microtuning, or however you want to describe it, retuning possibilities you have there. So just to come back to what I was saying there, you can make this device such that there is a lead device, and that means that every other device you create within the live set will follow that one, meaning that you could create global tunings for all of the tracks that you're working with. So I wanted to mention this one because I know some of you will not have Live 12 yet, or maybe anytime in the future, and that this offers you a lot of really cool possibilities of combining the scale options that we have on Push together with new tunings and new landscapes of pitches and sonic possibilities and all of the wonderful stuff that goes along with that. If you'd like to learn everything about Push 3, and I mean everything, check the Push 3 Bible. So Live 12, tuning systems, scales, I'm still absorbing what they mean, and you are watching me live discover some of the aspects of it, and there will perhaps be more to talk about that in the future. But really, really interesting things. And if I just bring all this to a close for now, on a technical note, I've gone through all of the possible options I can think of in terms of interacting with scales, devices related to scales, as well as settings on Push, including MPE, as well as within Live 11 and 12 themselves. And those are just possible places to be and possible setups you might use to go on certain journeys in terms of exploring things. And as always, I think what is important for me to invite you to do and myself to do is to make choices and not get lost in the paralysis of all the possibilities that are on offer, to really be intentional. And it's a word I had said to me by a student recently. He was talking about how it's so nice to be intentional in what we do before we set out and what we're making. And I think that's a great notion, especially in this sea of possibilities, this ocean of possibilities that we have in terms of scales and pitches and now tunings and so on. So I'll leave you with that thought, which is to mix totally playful, totally chaotic exploration of scales, as well as now and then saying, you know what, this is the path I'm going to choose, and I'm going to explore this scale, or, for example, in the future, certain devices or tunings. That was just a small part of the section on scales and tuning in the Push 3 Bible. If you have any questions about the course, do check the links below. Let me know in the comments or write to me directly. And in the meantime, take care.